So with the top 10 albums of June, we complete the 6-month cycle of 2025 thus far, and we can reflect upon a fairly mediocre year so far. There have been some great albums, there have been some really impressive performances put out, a lot of great records. It's just that overall this year is very much lacking from my point of view, and the variety of, especially death metal, is discouraging in terms of composition, performance, and any level of personality conveyed. So we're hoping for more in the second half, but for now, we'll just get to the top 10 list, and that starts at number 10 with Serpent Corpse's Retaliate. This is an EP which features, I think, a lineup which is the same as their debut full-length album. This is a Canadian death metal band, heavily influenced by hardcore punk, metal punk, and just the general hardcore sound, which has infected death metal so thoroughly these days. And this is a good example of it. There's a fine riff-oriented band, great sound, and a lot of energy to it. If you were a fan of power trip, but also a fan of old school death metal in its current state, this is a good example of those things working together to make solid songs. And there are some pretty interesting ideas in terms of atmosphere and just wielding their sound in a different way. And I'll be curious to see what happens to the band now that they've sort of switched up their ranks and the lineup has changed beyond this EP. So check that out if you're interested in death metal with some hardcore influence. I wasn't expecting to discuss nuance on a Devil Priest record, especially the third one, as they've pretty well defined their sound as something influenced by like Angel Corpse and Immolation on previous records. And Where I Am the Chalice, Be Thou the Blood is, it takes its time. It doesn't just go through the motions and beat out like a typical death metal record. This is a blackened death metal record, which works in technique and some mid-paced movements to create a dynamic which is a little bit more immersive and involved overall. And for me, this is a band I've been a fan of for a while, and I found that this was just a solid record that stood out amongst everything else this month. At number 8, we have Stellar Blight with Eventide, Synod of the Dying Stars, and this is a melodic black metal record, a melodic death metal record that takes strong influence from heavy metal from their perspective. It has a crystal clear sound. It's a beautiful sounding melodic death metal record, and above that all else, it kind of sounds like 2006 era Dissection. There's a bounce to it, there's a romp to it that has that anthemic feeling, and overall that was just effective enough to entertain me. Just with that sound alone. As it turns out, there's a bit more groove here. There's a little bit of their own flair here. It doesn't really relate to my idea of what traditional heavy metal has to offer to death metal, but it does its own thing, which is interesting as an additional thought, meditation upon that combination. So pretty interesting record if you're a fan of melodic death metal or melodic blackened death metal. I think this is going to be an entertaining record if you're aiming for something on the more tuneful side. Chasing the Dragon is the second full-length album from Helms Deep. This is basically a power thrash metal band with some progressive metal influences. I put it at number 7 here because it is I think, a valuable addition to your collection if you're a fan of 80s power metal in particular, but also if your interest broadens into speed metal that is adjacent power thrash metal. I don't know that this is a lasting record for me. It's a little bit overdone. There's a few too many songs here, but all of them are good, and really in the spirit of power thrash metal, this is one of the finer examples I've heard in some time, and it improved quite a bit over the debut. I'm always looking for traditional doom metal. It's one of my main interests in heavy metal, and I was glad to land upon number 6 with Angel of Damnation and their latest album, Ethereal Blasphemy. This is a German doom metal band, and one that comes from folks who are better known for both power prog metal bands as well as black thrash metal bands. So this is an authentic 80s, early to mid 80s doom metal album in sound and spirit. I think that the lyrics and the vocal performances really carry this record in terms of interest. They give a ton of personality to an album that is fairly straightforward. Some of the 70s rock influences here are not overstated or too soft to unravel the theme of the record. There's a sort of wicked personality to this music, which just carries it in mind a little bit stronger than a lot of the more plain and maudlin doom metal records we get year over year. Otherwise, just an authentic good time and a great heavy metal record.
Come into me, it's love, not sin. Oh, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost.
Darkness Embraced is the debut full-length album from Los Angeles, California-based death metal band Putrescent, and really they're strongly influenced by USDM. They've got members of Incinerate Him on this record, and this is classic old school death metal with its own kind of doomed twist towards the end of the record. I think one of the more authentic and inspired records in this style of late, and also just a quality presentation overall. This is kind of a band that I can get behind because it feels like they're interested in the real thing and not just whatever the latest version of old school death metal is, and just appreciated this record quite a bit as I sat with it. At number 4, we have the latest full-length album from Hex Vessel. Nocturne is sort of an extension of Polar Veil. It was intentionally created as a performance for Roadburn, and that means that it's a little over an hour long, and it's got sort of a theme to it, and it was intended to be performed live, but they made it into a record here, and it's a fantastic double album here, which expands upon that black metal influenced sound from a group which is essentially a folk metal or a folk rock group with the various influences feeding into different phases of their career. And this latest one is probably one of their most effective beyond the early stuff, just in the sense that it does something with a lot of conviction, with very strong atmosphere, which is incredibly tuneful. And I think the vocalist really is his own force, and really he can just sing in front of anything, and I'm pretty interested in that. But the fact that these songs are building upon Polar Veil in a way which is more elaborate, more long form, and interested in atmosphere, especially taking ideas from early black metal atmosphere, whether it's Dark Throne or Ulver or whatever. This record is a spectacle, it's an experience, and it's one that I just had a great time getting to know. Well, I don't think there's that much to say about number 3. This is a death metal band from Australia, and Beyond Mortal have always been incredibly consistent and always the sort of band that goes for quality over quantity. And Devastation Hymns is no different. It's a couple of new songs as well as a cover of a forbidden song, and that makes for a great showing from a band who are all about the riffs, but have been experimenting a little bit more on their latest releases, where they touch upon, they hit a keyboard or have a chorale there, here and there, which adds to the loft and the aggression of their music. There are a few bands today that really live up to the standard of a band like Drawn and Quartered as they hit their 9th full-length album. The fact that I can still get the same feeling from this band that I did back in the early 2000s really speaks to not only the consistency of their personality and the way that they've taken United States death metal influences and made it their own thing, which is still referential. You know, it's still, you're still going to find that this sounds like immolation and incantation. On this record specifically, they've gone just a little bit more brutal. They've leaned away from some of those dissonant and doomed sections that were more frequent on the last two records, and now they're just getting straight to the point with this album. And it makes for one that is, it just blazes past in a good way while still carrying the character of Drawn and Quartered to a new place. So for me, just a huge fan of this band, and it's a band that I've been recommending to folks for 2 decades. So it should be no surprise the album of the month this month is Cenas Chimera. Not only because it's a great melodic black metal record with a lot of strong meaning attached to it, but because it follows up a favorite of mine with a record that is just as good, if not better in some sense. This is more of a thorough telling, a very strong event overall, and it's a record that I could put on any day of the week at any time and just enjoyed every moment of it.